All right, today I'm taking a look at the next batch of prompts. It looks like last time I left off on 19, which is Ridge. I was kind of drawing out these ideas, thinking about the paneling for how this might be in the book. And so that leads us to Uncharted, which is prompt 20. We're actually just going to go ahead and do what we have with the last couple ones, and we're going to plot these so that I don't have to keep looking at the screen. 21 is rhino. It's actually rhinoceros. I'm not going to write the whole thing out. 22, camp. Okay, that one will be easy to fit in here. 23, rust. 24, expedition, which we've already looked at as well. So if you are just catching this session, what I've been doing is I've been going through the Inktober prompts for 2024. And I am slowly taking a look at them and seeing how they are going to be able to fit into a story that I'm crafting. I'm working on creating, hopefully, a whole bunch of images that are going to be able to be used in a children's book. And so I'm thinking about things in terms of how they're plotting on pages. I'm thinking about the fact that in some cases there are going to just be small detached drawings that are not going to be framed. And other times, there are going to be drawings that are going to take up an entire page. So you'll see things like this as I move through them. I'm not particularly interested in working through the prompts in order. I may end up drawing them in order, but as I'm thinking about it, I am simply thinking about how are these going to fit, how can I use them? And it is totally conceivable on two sides that there might be some that I don't end up using in the final product, and there are definitely going to be a lot of pages that are going to have to be illustrated that are not going to come from this set of prompts. The reason that I'm doing it this way is that there are interesting things that happen when you give yourself a list of prompts and follow through. If I just go ahead and illustrate this book and write it in the way that it has occurred to me to do, then that's fine. But I have a feeling that random good fortune will occur because I am including other things that I would not naturally have included. And I've seen the product of this before. We all have the tendency to draw the things that we always draw. We stay safe. Art is a risk. And so if we don't think about it, if we don't specifically give ourselves opportunities or challenges to do things outside of our normal realm, we generally won't. And so we end up doing the things that we're comfortable with, the things that we've always done. And that's fine if your goal is comfort, if your goal is just to have fun with your art. But if your goal is to grow, if your goal is to produce something at some point, you got to get out of your comfort zone. And so that is why I will try to incorporate as many of these as I possibly can, because you just never know what kind of fun, cool, interesting things will happen. Not to mention drawing the same character, the same style, the same environments for a portion of time just always makes you better at it. Every time I draw a little Andorra here, things are demonstrated that I don't do well, and other things are encouraged. You know, the fact that this hand is basically backward, it's too long, the fact that the staff is actually upside down in this position. I have it curving, which was something that I did specifically to think about like the perspective. Some of those worked, some of those didn't. That's just how it goes. And I don't care. These are just sketches. My goal is not to do anything perfect. So let's think about Uncharted. The first thing that comes to mind here might just be something kind of along the lines of, I don't remember the prompt, but I can go back and find it. Had to do with hope. Had to do with her coming to the top of something. Yes, Horizon, which I was thinking about her. Originally, it was just like, let's have her watching like the sunset or something. Then I'm going to have her on top of the building, which is going to be much, much cooler. So we're going to do something like that. So Uncharted could have that same feeling where we are at the top of some kind of ridge or something, and we are seeing this vast land before us that is untamed and has crazy things. In fact, I did something like this in one of my podcast videos a long time ago, where, it was kind of a little plateau like this, And then Dora was standing here and looking out, her long red hair cascading there, her dress, her long legs. And then basically it was this like giant pillars of earth beneath the ground and giant mushrooms rising up and some old forgotten ancient city over here. That does give the illusion of Uncharted, and that might be a good place to go. Just the idea that there's no paths, there's nothing there. I don't know where this will take place in the story. If I go with this route for number 20, then I kind of already have that illustration done. In fact, I have that illustration done in just straight up ink too. I did eventually color over it, but I have that. So that one might be fine. I might just kind of forego that, which of course is going to kick me on to 21, which is one that I am not particularly excited about. This is one of the prompts I talked about in the video I made about how the prompts, some people think the prompts are boring this year, and that's rhino, rhinoceros. There's something about it that just to me seems so mundane in comparison to some of the others. I'm not looking at a reference here, so my rhino's perhaps not going to be that great. And of course, I'm not going to just work with a standard rhino. I know way more boxy than that. But I find that not only for the video's sake, but for my own sake, sketching the first thing that comes to mind is not a bad idea. And actually, it's one of those things that I've pushed my students to do, and I would encourage you to do if you are going to be working on something like this as well. It's always a good idea to sketch your first idea, and it's an even better idea to ignore it. It's a good idea to figure basically your first sketch is just getting your initial thoughts out on to the paper. And just like you often delete the first draft or the first couple paragraphs of an essay that you wrote in school because it's generally junk, it's the same thing with your first sketch. Sometimes you nail it, but often that first sketch is just simply the first thing that came to your mind. And that doesn't mean that it has any manner of quality to it. I'm working on the backside here because I'm getting close to the end of this sketchbook, and I don't really want to jump into a new one. I want to have all my planning here in one place. So let's think now about the rhino type of creature. So a rhino is something with a single horn, so it's almost a unicorn. And it's usually bulky. So this story actually has a creature called a crag rhinoceros, but Andorra I don't think is going to run into one. So I'm thinking about creating some manner of ancient primordial creature, which she is going to run into, that maybe I can create this thing that just has a single giant horn. And this creature is going to basically be something that has been imprisoned under the earth for a very long time. So maybe I can make it where it's decrepit, it's fallen apart, or it's too weak to still do anything. What if I have like a really long giant neck that it can barely move, maybe not even lift anymore? So it's kind of writhing around here on itself. Not really writhing, because that implies movement, but it's kind of bent awkwardly here around itself. Got the weird creases happening. Maybe it's going back under itself again. This is really odd three-dimensionality. And, it's got to have more than one eye, because all the cool kids have more than one eye. I think the air conditioner just kicked on. You might be able to hear that. I'm not going to edit these videos a ton, and so I probably won't watch through or the whole way or take those kind of things out, because these are just study sessions. These are basically as authentic and normal of a video as I can possibly make, because there's nothing here is scripted. Generally right here I will have, like if I'm doing a video like this, I'll have notes, or maybe over here on the side. My desk expands obviously quite a bit beyond there, but for something like this, like there's literally nothing here. Usually that's where I have a little book holder, and I'll put notes or an iPad or another sketchbook with some notes, but nah, not today. So I am gonna think about how I'm going to put this big horn here, because it's going to push the rest of the flesh down if I do that. And that's totally fine, but it's going to be awkward being here on the front. So let's see what happens. This is one of those times where like digital sketching would be such a savior, because I could sketch out 6 or 7 different versions of this horn. And there will be a lot of people who will do Inktober digitally. I don't think there's any problem with it. There are probably people who do, probably people who think that that's not an authentic way to do it. I don't care. Like, it's a challenge that's basically a personal thing. You know, if you want to improve, you want to dedicate some time to working on these ink drawings, you want to get to the end of the month and have something, then you're going to do it. So it's, you know, you're not being paid by somebody. There's no cheating. I mean, I guess if you plagiarize things, that's cheating, but that's stupid. Why would you do that? What possible internet clout could you get that would make that worth it? So something like this strikes me as being rather entertaining and funny. And I did have it listed as a kind of a unicorn, but the reality is there's a lot of rhinos that have 2 horns. I don't know off the top of my head the difference between like the white rhinos and the black rhinos, and I know that there's a northern white rhino, which implies of course that there might be a southern one as well. I don't know the distinctions between all the rhinos. Mammals, though amazing and super interesting, were not ever the area of my study. That was pretty much always reptiles and amphibians. Them and insects, arthropods, arachnids, those were the things that were curious to me. The things that I spent all my time as a kid learning about, because I loved them, and still do, to a large degree. I'm trying ears, because why not? That's literally what sketches are for, so try stuff out. That would be such an interesting thing to contemplate, the concept of like a failed sketch, because what would a failed sketch be? Like, a sketch's purpose is to hash out ideas, to think about things. So the easiest way to do this would literally be like something like that, and then put Andorra over here and just have her seeing the creature. I did that last year for one, and it's a really easy way to do the drawing. So I don't think I'll do it this time. I might do it something more like, oh man, I wonder how I could do this perspective wise. Wonder if I could have something like this. I did something like this last year too, where you could have Andorra here, horizon line kind of be here. You could have like a little ledge where she's looking up at this creature, and you have this beast like this looking down at her, 1 eye, 2 eye, 3 eye, you know, the giant horn kind of cascading off the side there. Depending on how vertical I made the composition, you could do some really interesting things. And then the neck, which it would be quite hard to illustrate from this angle. And you could have the mammoth size of the beast. But, you know, this could also be done where like the piece could be way, way, way bigger. And you can see the like rest of his body kind of back in the darkness. And that might be really fun. That might be a really fun way to do this. You know, maybe like it's a full page spread kind of thing. I've got Andorra here with her hat. That's probably way too big. Horizon line. And if you don't know much about perspective, like the horizon line is just, that's where the eye level of the viewer is. It means that, you know, if I have a box down below, it's going to be like this. If I did a box here, you wouldn't see the top or the bottom. If I did a box up here, you would see the bottom of it. So that's kind of what that would look like. You know, if you did a sphere here, it might be like this. You did a sphere here, you're going to be seeing way more of the underside of it. If you did a sphere here, you're going to be seeing just a little bit of shadow on the bottom. So kind of like that. That's kind of what we're thinking. So you can do the same thing where we have the creature. So let's assume actually she's going to be like this big instead. Okay. So we got the head kind of going there. This mighty horn going up. Aye. The neck spirals. And you just got this like mammoth form. You know, and maybe a bunch of arms and legs. And some tentacles, because that's what the kids like these days. Tentacles. So something like this is going to require some more detailed sketching, but I'm okay with my solution to Rhino. And I love how I've totally used up this entire page on this one prompt too. Okay, cool. Camp number 22. We're just going to go over here for 22 because we're running out of space here. Camp. So first thing that comes to mind is like a teepee. I don't know if that's politically correct or not. I could look into that later if I decide to go with it. But it's just a good method of doing a thing. Have a little fire pit here with the smoke going up. You know, maybe Andora's sitting over here. It'd be kind of cute to have her like roasting a marshmallow. Maybe she could actually have her hat off, because I don't think I did that much at all last year. And her hat could be kind of like sitting on a stick or something, a little bit of shadow. Oh yeah, because the fire would cast shadows, which of course is going to be way fun. So Andorra can be sitting right here. Her braids hanging down. Ooh, it might be interesting too to even have like, you know, like clothesline, and she's got like her dress hanging up, and maybe her. It'd be fun is make one of the sides of the clothesline her staff. So she got her dress hanging up, which would be fun because I'd have to think about like what is she wearing underneath there. I don't know. So this would be like after soaked. So let's see. After she got wet. So let's think about this, because maybe one of the other prompts could actually be something that she gets wet. Oh yeah, that could be the grungy one, right? Where are we? We did a prompt with grungy, I believe, where she like fell into a whole bunch of junk, and then maybe she has to get bathed afterwards. And then this could be her like getting herself all put back together, dried off. Does she have her squid with her yet? I don't know. So I like this. This is kind of fun. So clothes, line, staff. Yeah, lots of little Easter eggies there. And maybe there's just one item that I didn't know how to put in here earlier. I could put in now. Violin is one of the prompts for later. So, you know, it could even have her playing a violin. Play violin. I don't think there's anything wrong with combining prompts. So I could either have, you know, her playing her violin here, or could have like the violin just be around. I don't know. It's an idea. I like this concept though, especially because I could have things be real dark outside of the area, and then could just have these things here. It'd be kind of fun. I think this will be up against some kind of stone wall. Stone wall. And that will give me, that way I can have light on that, so the clothes will actually be visible. The weird things you have to think about. Okay, what's 23? 23 is rust. Okay, 23, rust. Let's see. Generally, like rust, I would think of as something falling apart. It's like if we had a sword here. Think about the blade, like falling apart. I don't think that's necessarily going to fit into what we're doing here. How could we do rust? Well, perhaps rust could be the big city that she finds, because at the end of kind of the Uncharted thing, there's these big giant curves that are floating out in the middle of nowhere that maybe they're rusting away. No, because they're probably not metal. They're probably stone. I don't know. What do we do with rust? I think it needs to be something discovered. I wouldn't mind just having a single scene where we're going to have to go to a new page here. A single scene where you got, like this is our page, for example. Where, like, here maybe Andorra is before like a giant suit of armor or some, golem of some kind. And then in this image, we have just her hand, which I am not very good at hands, but I'll figure out a way to do this. And then just fading into the white of the page where she, like, boops it. She boops the armor. You would say, boop. Like, loom. Boop. And then you could have an image down here. Where she's just standing there and the whole thing just, like, crumbles. Like, falls backward. And you have, like, this little cloud of misery kind of hanging up. Like, rusted away. And it probably wouldn't fall then. It'd probably just be, like... and you probably actually need another one. So instead of... We take this and put this on the second page. And this image could actually be, like... the piece of metal that she booped is dark and it starts like crack. And these cracks form. You could even have it with like crack, crumble. And then you get to this, which is her stepping back and like the whole thing is just dust. I think that would work. It's several little illustrations, but I think it'd be kind of a fun way to do that. I don't feel very excited about it, but I think that it would work and it'd be doable. 24, Expedition. I feel like this is just going to be a travel scene. Like, I'm going to need... I don't know all of them right now, but like there's going to be several different locations. So this is just going to be her traveling and have some cool landscape. I'm not going to sketch it right now because when I do the full plotting of everything, this will naturally fit in. So let's move on to 25, which we haven't talked about yet, which is Scarecrow. Got it. So I think there could be a really fun page where you've got like outside, this would be like page 3 or 4, just explaining Spirac, the city she lives in, which is a magical city. So you have like a scarecrow in the field, and the birds are flying down to it. Maybe already landed on it. And then the second image would be the scarecrow like actually coming to life and the birds panicking and flying away. And I think that would be really fun. The scarecrow could be something like just a single eye and almost like a top hat. Piece of rope tied around the throat. Not like a noose, but just like a, to cinch it. And then you've got just a cloak. And this is the wood. Big old stake. Like nailing it in. Not like a crucifix. Don't want that imagery. But something like this. And again, would work on how I want the birds to look. But this will be a good, just potential bird. We're too low there? Yep. Okay, cool. Bird down here eating seeds on the ground, some grass. So I think that'll work. I think that'll be kind of a fun way to handle Scarecrow. 26. Ah, yes, one that I was dreading. Camera. Okay, I'm going to have to probably do some research on this one because this is kind of a high fantasy setting. There are artificers and things like that, so it's possible that they could create something like a camera. But I am actually going to research this one and look into like very old school forms of camera, but also like what the word camera means, what the purpose of a camera is, and see if like maybe I can create a magical version of this and see what that does. But I want to give that some time. Oh, which is ironic since 27 is road, which is just going to naturally come up in one of the one of the paths. So this is going to be a lot like expedition, where it's just going to be something that is going to come up naturally when I shove all of them in an order. 28 then, jumbo. I mean, the easiest way for me to do this is actually to go back to the big old like primordial creature that I had, the rhinoceros creature, and just do something like that. It would be fun, though, to do something that's almost, like, scary or creepy, like when she's in the underground and she just runs into something that's way bigger than it should be. So what would be fun to do that way? What would be a fun thing? My mind immediately goes to, like, bugs and insects, like a giant centipede, and having her run away from a giant centipede or something. That might be a really intriguing way to do this. But, yeah, jumbo, just something seems to be bigger than it should be. So, yeah, so we'll say running from something scary. Too big. But it just occurs to me, though, the alternative here would be, like, riding something. So last year I did her riding a salamander. And that would also be jumbo, right? It's this creature that was supersized and then became really intriguing because of the fact that it's supersized. So maybe something cute could be there. Oh man, like riding an earthworm would be awesome and gross and creepy and fun. Yeah, that would be really entertaining. Riding earthworm? That's gonna take some sketching. That's 3 different ideas though. So, and now I'm feeling like, oh man, like we've got 3 left, and actually one of them we've already talked about. So maybe we go ahead and just finish this stuff off. I'm gonna skip that page. I use that for another video. Oh no, I thought this was the last page. No, we got 1 page beyond this. Okay, cool. So 29, Navigator. Okay, cool. I want to tie this into nomads. Tie into nomad, which was the little like bird people that I introduced earlier. I'm gonna have him have a bandana like Johnny Depp when he was a pirate. Bird claws holding on. Little cute arms. Can we see all this? Yeah, we can. Okay, sorry. Had a kind of funny angle there for a second. Okay, so this guy is the Navigator. I think maybe they're pretty short. I was going for concerned, but I didn't quite nail it. And do her hands on her knees, if I can manage it. Okay, we'll definitely need to practice that pose. The idea being like she's leaning forward and her hands are on her knees. As she's, it's also hard with the dress, as she's looking at this little guy holding the map. So I'll definitely work on that pose and nail that down a little bit more. And this guy is like reading this old crusty map. So I think we have this detailed scene, and then we're going to follow that up with like a super chibi one. Point. Holding the map at his side and just points. Just have this be like a huge page. You know, like you go that way. Maybe it's a big like crossroads type sign kind of thing. And he's telling her which way to go. But that'll work. 30 is violin, which we already talked about, which means we're actually at number 31 to talk about our last one, which is, fortunate for us, landmark. This, I'm going to do a monolith. I'll have to sketch it out a bit, but I want to do something where we've got, you know, our big rectangular page, and you've got Andorra in the middle. I love the drawings like this where it's just like showing how big something is, and that's actually going to be too big for this sketch. Just like a samurai. And I want to just be like some stone, like that's just awkwardly growing out of the ground, you know, where like it obviously doesn't belong there. Something that's just at a really weird angle. You know, where that's the ground level. Something just very strange. It almost looks like Texas, the way that that's articulated. Just some giant stone. And you've got little Andorra here, just tiny in front of it. And you know what might be cool is to actually have the shadow of it coming over like straight towards her. I don't know what else will be in the background here. I kind of like the idea too that like, you know, maybe there's mushrooms or trees. I don't know if there's trees down here because there's no sunlight drawing off of the thing. But I like that idea, just like this monolith landmark thing. So, well, that's at least my first blast through these. There were a couple that I didn't solve entirely. Guidebook and journal, which is number 15 and 17. I didn't totally isolate. I think when I go through and I continue planning, I will probably figure out a place for them. But that is my first pass at all of the prompts associated with Inktober this year. This was my first page, thinking through the ideas and the way that I'm setting things up. So that's, yeah, there's the little nomad guys. So this is the first pass, and I think this will be good. There are certainly some of these ideas that are going to need more work than others, but this is my first full pass through the prompts. So I hope this has been helpful for you. I hope that there's something of benefit in my processes as I'm going through and kind of thinking about and planning. And I hope too that you note from these sketches, these are not drawings. These are they are sketches. They're thumbnails. They're me planning out my process for what I'm doing. And this is a fine, totally acceptable way for you to go about things too. You don't need to make every sketch proficient. In fact, if you do, you are wasting your time. And time, my friends, is a valuable resource. So, thanks for tuning in. I hope this was helpful for you. Have a good one, y'all. See you soon.